there's a book by, you guys all probably know Reinhard Bonnke. He led 80 million people to Christ. Really, I mean, like literally like signed confession cards. Really radical stuff in Africa. And he's got an autobiography. It's called Living a Life of Fire. It's literally on fire. Okay, like it's like this thick. This book, it's like this thick, and I read it in like 2 or 3 days. Now I'm a fast reader, but still, like I just could not put this thing down. You know, just like because this is the thing is that every single page was like you're reading it. It's like God told me to do this, and then you turn the page and he's German. He's like, I did it, and this is what happened. And you're like, no way that happened. And then he's like, I thought God was telling me to do this. I did it. This is what happened. And you're like, no way. So you just like, you begin to flip through these pages, you know, and he lived this life of fire. Like he lived this life of fire, you know, and I always say like each one of us has this biography, right? And it's a life of fire, right? And it's this, and it really, the essence is that we're just this sailing ship, like those big white sailing ships. And we're waiting on the winds of the Spirit to push us in different directions, you know? And really our lives are like this, like Nikolai, your story is like, I felt God told me to come here. I did. Okay, this is what happened, you know? And it's like this life of adventure with Him. It doesn't mean that we live faithful-less lives. Like we're just always, we're never faithful anywhere. Oh, I didn't show up because I woke up that morning and God said don't show up to work. You know, like, no, or you know, God said I'm no longer in community with you. Like, no, we're not using His voice as an excuse to be faithful-less, right? Or not faithful, faithless. Yeah. You know, like not dependable. But really, where we're continually like the greatest narrative is this inner dialogue with Him, right? And we're just living that out, you know. And really like that's really what it means to live according to the Spirit. He said if you live according to the Spirit, you don't do the things of the flesh. If you're led by the Spirit, you don't do the things of the flesh. Yeah. And so as we're led by the Spirit, like the things of the flesh kind of go away. Actually, like it no longer, like you know, I'm no longer my main heart is not to not sin. My main heart is to radically expand my Father's kingdom. And the more that my heart is captured by that, sin just shrinks away. It's such a lesser pleasure, right? David got into trouble with Bathsheba because he was away from the battle. He's resting, kind of in a place of boredom, and that's really when sin becomes more attractive to all of us, whatever it is, right? And so it's always like, hey, and part of your discipleship when you're discipling a guy or girl to get free of stuff like that is like they need to understand that they have a real role to play in the kingdom, and you can fascinate your heart with it. So today I thought we'd just talk a little bit this afternoon. Again, I'll head out around 4, so don't worry, it's not going to be a long party, but really about hearing God's voice, and again, just you know, tracing everything back to. At the end of the day, like, and again, some people in this room like could fully teach on it. I know like Garrett, Anna, my gosh, Nikolai, you're probably evangelist, prophet. Definitely have a prophet's mantle that rests on you. But and again, probably other people too, Michelle. You know. But anyways, but we'll just kind of cover the base ground, and we'll do some at different activations. But very, very key to our lives really is that we're living like a personal relationship with the living God and a living voice. Right, the voice that created all of creation, and it's His voice that we want to begin to become in tune with, and we want to begin to be children who hear His voice. John 10:27, my sheep hear my voice, and we want to raise up communities and disciples that hear His voice. Right, so that's why, and so this is so key. It's so fundamental, you know, and even again, I know one of the things that we want to hit on is discipleship. It's really important that we teach people we disciple to hear His voice. Yes. Right? It's very, very important. If we're making them codependent upon the next hit of our little meeting with them, we're making a disciple of Matt. We want to make them codependent upon the indwelling Spirit of the Lord, His voice, where they're coming to Him. Somebody like, and so what you're trying to use when you're discipling people, as like a pro tip, is someone comes to you with a question. Some guy comes to you like, bro, like, I don't know what, oh, nice, she's at the door. Wow. Look at this guy. Oh, my Lord, so cool. So, but basically, so someone's coming to you with a question. They're coming to you, Isabella, like, I don't know if I should date this guy or not, or, I don't know, just different questions. What do I do? And a lot of times, you know, and sometimes it's good to kind of, the Lord surfaces a testimony, a Bible verse, something, to frame it out. But it's really important, you can just take them in that moment, whatever the little question mark is. You're like, hey, listen, let's just go to the Lord right now, and I want you to ask Him. Yeah. You just ask Him the same question, and they're like, what do you mean? And you're like, no, listen, just close your eyes, you know, and then have them close their eyes, just pray over them, and just be like, okay, I want you to ask Jesus this, okay, yeah, just repeat after me, all right, okay. You're like, hey, like Jesus, like, I don't know, do you want me to date this person? I mean, sometimes if it's really close to them, it's going to be hard for them to hear, but it could just be, like one question, you know, I haven't been experiencing God in the last 2 weeks, okay? Someone comes to you, I don't know, man, I just haven't been experiencing God, bro. And you're like, okay, listen, let's just go to the Lord now and ask him, like, Lord, why am I not experiencing you? Okay? And so you just lay hands on them, pray over them, and then just say, okay, you know, and so when I'm praying over someone, I'm just praying like their identity. Like, Lord, I thank you that they're sheep in your pasture. Thank you even when they weren't with you that they could hear you, because it was your voice that drew them into the kingdom. But I thank you're going to be speaking to them now, Lord. You're going to be speaking to them now. So you're almost just bringing that little restless heart that we all have sometimes, me too, you know, like sometimes, anyways, you know, sometimes as Matt, my friend today, he was like, Matt, it's going to be okay. I'm like, you're right. Okay, so basically you're just kind of reminding them of who they are. And you're like, okay, now ask the Lord, like, why can't I experience your presence, you know? I did this with this one guy, Venya. And so I'm just praying over him, okay, ask him that, Lord, why can't I experience your presence? Why am I not experiencing your presence? And then he started to pray, you know, in tongues. I'm like, no, just ask him and rest. Just don't say anything. And he's like, okay. And so he's sitting there for like 30 seconds of awkward silence. And anyways, and you're just like, and then the enemy's going to try to attack you. He's not going to get anything. He does it. It's the enemy, you know. And you're just like, no. And then you just press back in your thought, like, no, he's going to hear you, Lord. He's hearing Jesus now. Anyway, so I'm like, after 30, 40 seconds, I'm like, so what are you sensing? And he's like, I just see the word forgiveness. You know, I'm like, okay. Wow. And I'm like, okay, so ask the Lord, like, Lord, who am I called to forgive? And he's like, my dad. So anyways, really intense guy. Anyways, I'm like, well, when should you do that? Ask the Lord when you should do that. Now. But it's really important. So you can host moments like that. Even you, Irina. Even you, Maestro. Especially you. Yeah. You know? Yeah, you're special. Yeah.
Yes, you are.
And you just, And so in that way, you begin to make them, help them realize that they can hear his voice, right? And so in short, like, I do this a lot. I did this a lot for a season of time with like people, and they would be like, Matt, I don't even ask you anymore because I know what you're gonna say. And I'm like, yeah, that's it, bro. And he's like, so I do it, and he speaks to me. I'm like, there you go, bro. There you go. So they don't text me anymore, those guys, which is great. That's success. Yeah. I mean, they reach out for heavier things, you know. Yeah. But success is like you kind of make yourself. True success is you make yourself redundant.
Yeah.
Like you know your job's done, Nikolai, because you go in a community and. Like you've been in the community for a year, everybody evangelizes kind of like you, and people are walking the prophetic, and you're like, okay, well, you know, and this feels good, you know, like, you say something like, oh, everybody knows that. It's like, well, no, they really don't, but you do.
So do you think that like once you're in a community and like, for example, so like the example you made of Nikolai, right?
Yeah.
If his call was like bring out the evangelists and everyone in that community became an evangelist, like his job in that area was like complete.
Yeah. I mean, he probably is an evangelist with a prophetic mantle on. I mean, you're a lot of different stuff. I mean, but if you don't feel you are, that's okay too. But again, no one person is the same. We all have different graces that rest on us. There's never been someone quite like us, truly, like our fingerprints and our spiritual fingerprints.
Yeah.
But I would say like typically not always, because it could also be like God just wants you to rest here for 2 years and like do something, you know, travel around or whatever.
Yeah.
But often, like I would just say, like a lot of times we think success looks like the grace we carry is used for like 10 or 15 years, like we could just make a ministry on like one revelation or one grace. And it's like true success is that over the span of like 5 or 10 years, you spread that grace around, and everybody's like, oh, everybody knows that, you know.
Yeah.
That's success. We see it as a failure, but it's actually success.
Yeah.
We've multiplied. When family becomes redundant, they're like, oh man, no, you know, and then you're like, Daniel's like, okay. One of my life summons is done. This is great, you know. So I think like that it's a mature way of looking at it, because we think we lose when people think we're redundant, but we've actually gained something.
That's so good, man. Wow.
We've actually succeeded at something. So, but in short, just so hearing his voice is very, very critical to how we lead our lives. Hearing his voice is critical to like obviously big decisions in our lives, like who to marry. I mean everything, right? We want to learn to like discern his voice, to be led by his voice. mankind makes plans like we have two different options, option A, option B. We look at like the cost benefits. Okay, if we do option A, there's 7 benefits, there's 3 costs. If we do option B, there's 6, there's 5. So there's more benefit, there's less cost. We're gonna do option A. Well, that's man's thinking. That's man's wisdom. The Lord's wisdom is I lay everything down. I come to Him, and I hear from Him, and whatever He says, I will do. Right? And I mean, it's good to have wise counsel in your life, because sometimes the closer a decision is, like marriage or a bigger decision, we want to have wise counsel. So in the multitude of counsel, there's great wisdom. So there's wisdom we get from Him, but there's also wisdom that rests in a community, and having brothers to run things by. Hey, should I marry this girl? Should I, what do you think about this guy? Honestly. But in short, hearing His voice is very, very important. And so I'll just kind of give some brief summaries about what His voice sounds like. He said, obviously, my sheep hear my voice. That means in John 10, almost the entire chapter is about Him speaking to His sheep. And obviously, like, if you surrendered your life to Him, like you're a sheep in His pasture, that means He's speaking with you. There would never be a day that my children would be in my presence that I would not speak with them. There would never be a day that if my kids ask me a question, I would not speak with them, right? I have thoughts about them, right? I have, but I'm not going to tell them everything, right? I'm not going to bring, like, John into a season of making him feel bad that he's not driving perfectly. He's 5,
Yeah.
So again, but John's like, what kind of car am I going to have? I'm like, I don't really know, so again, sometimes we want these deep things, but if we begin to ask Him about little things close to us, He will speak to us. And He speaks in part, we hear in part, but speaking to us. And again, I always say too, we've all heard His voice at least once, because it was His voice that drew us into the kingdom, And so even before we were saved, His Spirit was speaking with us. So just different ways He speaks. He speaks, obviously, like through little impressions in our spirit, man. Little pitchilinia, and it's like just a feeling of like, do this, do that. How many of you guys get that? Again, just a little inner knowing. So it's like, for example, it was probably this what I'm feeling, what I'm trying to identify is the feeling that you had when you thought that you somehow needed to come to Soul Week. There's like a little prompting in you, do it, little whisper. He speaks through that. He speaks through our imagination, our mind's eye, And so again, what I'm saying is, like, if we close our eyes and I said the word apple, imagine an apple now, and he would, again, so whatever that looks like. But again, obviously, I'm putting that in your mind. But what I'm saying is, there's like almost like a blank screen, and there's images that come up, and so realizing that again. Little pictures, little videos, little rollicky, and again realizing that this can offend, especially really it can offend teachers in the body of Christ, but it can also offend like conservative people, because they say, like, that's so simple, like it's so simple. But Eric Gilmore said, and he was quoting somebody else, but there's nothing is so hard as that which is so simple. Actually, we want to make it hard. But it really takes childlike faith that the little images that are flooding your thought life are actually God Himself speaking to you. But it's true, it can come. Okay, wait, hold on, let me back up one step. Okay, one step. There's 3 different voices. So every thought we have, every thought you have, is sourced in one of 3 different realms or places in a way. So there's like God's realm or God's voice. There's the voice of the enemy or the enemy's realm, or there's also your own voice. Okay, so every thought we have is coming from one of those 3 places. It's not infinite, one of 3 places, okay? So the voice of the enemy, Jesus says the enemy comes to steal, to kill, and destroy. So his voice, it's stealing things from us, it's destroying things. So voices of fear, voices of insecurity, so thoughts of fear, thoughts of insecurity, thoughts of doubt, thoughts of sin. These are all from the enemy, and the enemy just kind of is like, hey, think this, and you're just like, oh yeah, we just take a hold of it, it's like, and then we finally get up there, and he's like, we're just like going around he's just throwing things at us, like yeah. So we have to learn that we're not the victim of our thought life, we're the author. You can think about something different, even So again, realizing this is what His voice, the texture of His voice, fear, insecurity, doubt, sin, shame, condemnation over here. And obviously, like, the first thing is to realize, like, what his voice sounds like, and to stop thinking those things. Just like, again, it comes up, and it's just like, no, why? Whatever pure, whatever's good, I'm going to think on these things. It's not pure, it's not good. Yeah, but it could happen. Yeah, but it's not pure or good. I'm not thinking about it. You know, whatever you feed your thought life on, you empower in your life. But in short, just like a pro tip is obviously stop thinking those things when they come up just immediately. But we've all had the thing where like something comes up, you know, and it's like we have like a few seconds to kind of like reject it or take a hold of it. You know, again, you're a loser, Irina. You're never going to find anybody. You're never going to find a husband. Okay, like whatever it is, you know, it comes at you. You see a romance movie. I know. You're reading my mail, man. I know. You see a romance movie, you're like, I'll never find a guy like that or whatever. You know, he's sitting right next to you. Okay, nobody. Okay, no, I'm just kidding. So, but anyways, yeah. So, both guys. Okay, but basically, yes, you're shooting. Just kidding.
It's
Okay.
those Christmas love movies, Matt.
I know Hallmark is such a tool of the enemy. Hallmark is so sick. Okay. Okay, but basically, but again, like the thought comes up, and we have like a few seconds to either not meditate on it, but if we take a hold of it and we begin to meditate on it, within like 5 seconds, it feels like it's true. It's like, you're right, I'll never find, you know, like, because again, we willfully partnered our spirit with this thing, and we empowered that, like the emotional reality of that to kind of grip us in a way, right? And so I've learned that, so the only way, once it's kind of gripped you in that way, I would say is, it's no longer enough to be like, don't think of it, because there's like a residue in your inner man, like, you're right, I'm not going to, okay, I'll start thinking about something, but it's kind of there. You have to willfully fascinate yourself with the truth, or something else. Like, we can be where like, we're talking with somebody, but we're thinking about something else. You can actually like be present, but really be hosted in something else, but you can't willfully fascinate yourself on two things at the same time. Yeah. Like where your whole heart is engaged. So that our hearts, you know, yeah. So willfully. So like I'll have it, you know, say a thought of fear, a thought of insecurity, a thought of lust, whatever, and you willfully partake in this thing, and you kind of begin to host this thing. It feels true. Like again, the only thing that I know to do is like to really start worshiping, to really start praying for somebody, to really like give myself over to doing something in my heart, and in that way, it's kind of like. There's like a space in my heart. As I fascinate myself on something, the other thing has to leave. Yeah. So that's why obviously worship is the weapon. That's how we fight our battles, right? It's really saying fascination upon whatever's pure, whatever's good is how I fight my battles. And fascinating my heart. That's so good. So that's like, you know, a pro tip, because again, the battlefield is up here. This is the battlefield, right? Of a man's heart is in his thought life. And so you have to win this battlefield first, taking every thought captive. And this is a process, but it's really where the battlefield is. Thankfully, we're not getting in car wrecks every day. Not every day our countries get invaded by other countries. You know, like it's typically this thing. So that's the enemy's voice. God's voice sounds like the fruits of the Spirit. So the tenor of His voice, the texture of His voice, the whisper, what it sounds like. So we know that the more the Holy Spirit rests in a moment in time or a person, the more loving it feels, the more peaceful, the more joyful it feels, you know. And so His voice is loving, His voice is joyful, His voice is filled with peace. So when He whispers things to you, like, you know, go to Soul School, you know, like you know, it sounds peaceful. It's like, yeah. His voice never contradicts Scripture, you know. So again, you know, it's not like we'll never be like, I think God's calling me to move in with my girlfriend, you know, like no. You know, like, you know, it's like whatever's good, whatever's, pure, it doesn't contradict Scripture. One other aspect of His voice is that it often causes us to take a step of faith or a risk.
Oh, that's good. Wow.
You know, it often does.
Wait, repeat that?
No, just His voice often asks us to take a step of faith or risk. So, like, you often know it's Him when, like, you're encountering the Lord. Okay, we gotta go back to, like, the encounter box. Okay, we're encountering the Lord, you know, and he whispers over you, like, start a business, go back to school, go back to Ukraine, you know, whatever it is, you know, So He whispers something to you, and in that moment, it's like you have vision for it, you have peace for it, and in His manifest presence, like it's like yes, and then, you know, an hour later, you wake up the next day, and you're like, whoa, like, well, I don't know about this, you know, like that's going to be pretty risky, you know, and it's like,
that's so true.
Yeah. So like a sign of maturity is that you're able to steward His word outside of His manifest presence, right? So I mean, it's I gotta live up to this too, guys, but I'm just saying like this is big, He said it's the Father's good pleasure to give us the kingdom, but we have to learn how to host it through obedience. And so in short, that's what His voice sounds like. And then lastly, like there's our voice, right? And this is where, and you're like, okay, Matt, how do I know whether it's God's voice or my voice? And I would just say you have to, first off, we see through a glass darkly, we will never get it probably 100% correct, okay? And so just being okay with that, like being okay with, I'm trying to drink in the beauty of an ocean, and there's always more. But you have to tip yourself over into a season of discovery, in fact, a life of discovery, but certainly a season of discovery, where you're like, listen, every time I think it could be His voice, I'm going to step out, right? Every time, especially here. But when you go back home, every time. So I learned the difference in Russian between, are you Russian? No. Okay, I don't think so, okay. Yeah, but I learned the difference in this phrase, like, yani pani, this is not how I learned it, I knew it, but yani pani mayu, yani pani delnik. So one means I don't understand, and the other means I'm not Monday. Yani pani. Yeah, yani pani delnik. It's like, so, but the point is, yani pani mayo and yani pani delnik, like it sounds similar, but they're way two different meanings. But you learn it because you say it and you see if it has meaning to somebody. So in the same way, you begin to learn to discern His voice. Nikolai learned to discern His voice because he would hear Him, and then he'd be like, okay, and God would say, go pray for this person. That person's hip hurts, and you're like, okay, there's only one way of doing this. Okay, does your hip hurt? Yes. And you're like, whoa, okay, like this is the Lord, okay? So, and you're like, okay, and then, so actually we learn how to walk in the supernatural the same that we walk in the natural. Same way we learn to walk in the natural. Like it's, they walk in the natural like a little kid, they'll take one step and then two steps and then they fall down, and then they get back up. And then they, and so in the supernatural, you're like, okay, Lord, like speak to me. And He's like, okay, go tell that person that I love him. So you're like, oh, I don't know, Lord, go tell him. And you're like, the Lord loves you. And then they start crying, like, I was just asking the Lord, do you even love me? You're like, yeah. So you're like, okay, that was the Lord, okay. And then almost like the same frequency, the Lord speaks again. And you're like, okay, well, the first time that was the Lord. The second time, and then it means something to them. And you're like, whoa. And then you're like, okay. And then you begin to walk, And this is how we begin to walk in the natural and the supernatural, right? We want it. Again, we're always trying to make, what we want every time. We always want to turn our relationship into God into a math equation. Like, every time I do this, this happens. Every time. And He's like, listen, that's the old covenant, but it's not even the old covenant, but we're always trying to like make it into, 2 + 2 = 4. And it's like, none of us want to marry someone really who's so mathematical.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. No one wants to marry a German. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. I love Germans. My wife's German. I'm kidding. No. The Germans are. It's a stereotype that they're always so. It's like, every guy should marry a German. Every guy and every girl.
That's
that means the Russians and the Ukrainians and the.
No, I'm just kidding. But my point is none of us want to marry a robot like every time, and yet we always want to turn God into a robot. We're not up to actually intimacy, which is like, I think He's doing this, and it's adventurous to do things with the Spirit. You don't know how it's going to kind of go sometimes, but you have to learn to love just being in the pool.
Dance.
Yeah. So I'll say these are key things. So that's the texture of His voice. Yeah. And then, again, how does He speak? So again, little impressions. Again, He speaks in our mind's eye. And again, just talking, that can offend conservative churches, can offend people because it's so simple. And it's available to everybody. Some leaders don't like that you get to hear His voice, that you, little Tanya, can hear the Lord's voice when I'm I'm 65. Yazdies pastor. I'm the pastor here. Who are you? And it's like, listen, it's offensive that it takes the body. Again, and there is a place of honoring pastors, and like we don't just seize the show because we heard his voice. But just saying, it can be offensive, but also saying that it's simple and it's real. Lastly, I'll say this too, is that I always tell conservative pastors, listen, okay, I understand your concerns about imagination. Let me ask you this. Does the enemy speak through our imaginations?
Whoa.
And they'll be like, they'll be like, well, yeah, like he does. Like lust, always seated in your imagination. Fear, a lot of times in your imagination.
Oh my gosh,
Insecurities. And I'm like, okay, well listen, if you admit that the enemy speaks to you in your imagination, but not the Lord, then you're saying that the Lord, in His infinite wisdom, built tunnels into our inner man only to be only for torment to come upon us, only for sin. It's like, no. He built those tunnels so that He could have a relationship with us, right? And so saying little pictures, but again, not every picture is from the Lord. There's three sources: the enemy, God, and our own thoughts, right? And so it's a journey of discovering that, like separating that sometimes. Some you don't have to have guesswork. Some you're always discovering, and that's why you always tread very meekly, with things. Sometimes when I'm praying over people, I know that I know it's the Lord, no question, like 100%. I bet $1,000 on it, okay? And still, I'll just be like, hey, listen, I feel like the Lord's saying this. I just feel like He's saying this. I was over there, I was worshiping. I felt like He came over. He told me, hey, come, just tell you this. And then you tell them. Sometimes they cry. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes there's no expression, But you're just like, hey, does that make sense to you? And so, but I'll always deliver it very meekly. I never want it to be that the force of my voice forces something in people, or the title I carry, That's why, like, I don't like people that certainly call out sin from the stage, things like that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's done with the right heart. But just saying, I trust just how many of you guys have been in a sermon, someone's preaching, and you're just sitting there and you're like, this guy knows me, like every word is like, my gosh, yes, and it's not like he's saying like, James, this is for you, James, but the Holy Spirit, but basically, but it's like, but the Holy Spirit's in him speaking, and the Holy Spirit's saying, hey, this is for you, James, this is for you, and so we can meekly release things, trusting that if it's from the Lord, that the Lord will minister it to someone's heart, right? And so that's the best thing, is just gentle meekness, so again, He speaks through dreams. He speaks through circumstances. He speaks through literally everything. Yeah. Taste, smell, sometimes.
Our senses,
He speaks through
all
obviously
senses.
Really, He gave every sense for us to orient our lives on this earth with, but also He speaks to them. I've had encounters of like different smells, like sweet smell filling the room. There's different kinds of just different things. But again, like I'm normal, guys. Like I'm not, I'm not. Overall, I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't make anything up. Huh?
Did you say
I'm not a prophet? No, prophets are normal too, but I just mean like.
I know what you mean when you say that.
Sometimes you're just like, man, like, someone's like, I see an angel behind you, and like I know that they do, and that's how the Lord's ministering. But like, I'm not that kind of guy. So I'm just saying it's real. That's all. And I'm saying if you believe in me, if you believe I'm legit, or just I'm normal, then just believe that it's real. So receive by faith.
I believe you're special.
Not a super Christian.
Not just normal, special.
Yeah. Okay. So So lastly, So just saying that. Lastly, too, He speaks through the Word, obviously. So what you want to do is you want to just approach the Word with childlike faith. Like if I open up my Word, He's going to speak with me. Like just childlike faith, He's going to speak with me. Now, again, and how He speaks to me is I'll be reading, and sometimes like I'm just reading, and He'll just draw my attention to a verse, and I'll just sit there and I'll just read it a little, and then I'll realize, like, again, I found that thing that I came for. I found this little morsel of food, okay? Like, and I'll just kind of pause and just rest and just ask the Lord, like, Lord, like, what do you want to say to me through this, Just a little phrase like that. Sometimes it's a specific question, but it's like, Lord, what do you want to say through this? And then I'll just kind of close my eyes and rest. And a lot of times, like, He'll surface, like, the theme of the verse, like, in my heart, with, like, a memory from the recent past, or just a memory. Like, it just kind of begins to come together. Like, He begins to lead my thoughts. And it's kind of like a different way of looking at it, It's like a different perspective. And somehow it takes that theme and, like, imparts it into me deeper. Like, I don't know. I mean, you guys, probably what happens with you, right? I'm hopefully describing what happens with you a lot. So just doing that. Now, lastly, all of us, we'd love to get like a Twitter-worthy kind of quote or something. Like sometimes, like, say this. Sometimes there's a meal I ate in 2012. I was in Warsaw. I had a great steak, and I'll remember that maybe for the rest of my life. Okay, I had some barbecue one time in a village in Russia, and it was amazing. So sometimes some meals you remember, and almost how they saved you, in desperate situations, when you're like hungry after a few days, or whatever. But some meals, like I don't remember what I ate yesterday, I'd have to really think. And in the same way, what you got a meal?
Because I was telling Isabel this same exact thing yesterday.
Okay, yeah. So, but yet, no matter what, the meal sustained me.
Yeah.
So again, whether it's Twitter worthy, whether it's something deep, at the end of the day, if all that happened was, like I was thinking about all these other things, the war in Ukraine, all this different stuff, and if all I did was for 30 minutes just wash my thought life with the Word and kind of take those things away, that is success, right? So define success really small. I mean, if that's big, but I'm just saying, like that alone is worthy of engaging Scripture. So he speaks of the Word. So yeah. Lastly, and then we'll kind of go into some activations. Okay, yeah. Oh my Lord. Okay. Oh man. Okay.
What happened to that?
Okay. Well, I'm sending these messages. That's Mccluskey. Okay, but basically, just thinking of this. Yeah. So I always say this. So lastly, these conversations are conversations you'll probably have with many people when you go home. You too. You're from Massachusetts.
Yeah.
What's your name again?
I'm Tanya.
Tanya. Okay, Tanya. Okay, that's good. So but all of you guys equipping people to hear God's voice one-on-one and explaining it to them in very simple language, making it very approachable. A lot of what we're doing also as disciplers is someone that we're sitting down with, and sometimes it's us. Like earlier today, I'm looking at something like this, and my brother's like, no, bro, look at it like this. And I'm like, oh, yes. A lot of that's what we're doing. Like people we're sitting down with, and again, us, praise God for the body. We're seeing something like this, and then we're like, no, why don't you see it like this? Like a brother is someone who gives a slightly wider perspective, an older brother, right? A father, a mother, they give slightly wider perspective. And so you'll be someone who demystifies hearing God's voice, right? And the necessity of being able to do that and activating people in that. So I always say it's really good to have these 4 things to hear God's voice, but you don't have to have any because we didn't have any of these often when we came to Christ. But it's really good to know, again, that first off, our identity in Christ, and there's many different aspects of this, but one thing is we have to realize that this is like God the Father, and this is like me, and if there was hot lava all around here, that the bridge between me and the Father is actually the perfect work of Jesus, not my perfect works, right? Yeah. And so what I mean by that is, and a lot of times we know this, I memorized this verse when I was in 3rd grade, because I memorized the verse every day then, okay? But because again, I wanted to go to heaven. You weren't even here, but it's so funny.
Actually, it's funny, Frank, and I was the exact same way.
Oh my
Every
gosh,
night
James.
for 3 years, I would write sermons.
Yeah.
And I would memorize the Bible. I memorized 4 or 5 books of the Bible.
Whoa.
Yeah, I don't remember all of it,
Gosh.
but but I literally did that when I was younger.
James,
Yeah, it was
You were
around when we
amazing.
did Bible quizzing.
how old are you?
I'm 20.
So amazing,
Yeah,
man.
when I was younger.
Yeah, so in general, but in short, I memorized the verse, he made him who knew no sin to be sin for us, that we could become the righteousness of God in Christ, right? But it wasn't on my heart, really, so my heart didn't react with that reality. So how that manifested, for example, and again, so these are conversations that you're going to have 100 times, at least, in your life, where you're going to be sitting with people and you're going to realize they can't come into the Father's presence because they're continually looking at their own sin. They don't really understand this thing. So it's good to be able to explain to them the fullness of what Jesus died for. So I kind of explained it to the young adults in SMBS in this way. Listen, when I was younger, when I was in late teenager, early 20s, even I struggled with pornography. Okay, and I knew the scripture, and how it would be like this, okay? I knew that, I'm not saved through my own works, that it's through the perfect work of Jesus, and yet my heart will react so often like that's not true. For example, if I looked at porn on a Saturday, okay? Saturday night, again, I would contend for purity. I was never okay with sin, okay? We're ever in a place where we're just willfully sinning and there's no conviction in our hearts, then we want to get on the ground and be like, Lord, make my heart soft again. Make my heart soft again, okay? So, but it was basically a Saturday night, say Saturday night, I look at porn. The next, and afterwards, Lord, forgive me, Lord, I repent. Okay, I was never okay with it. But so the next Sunday, we're in church and we're singing, this song wasn't out yet, but like, He loves us how He loves us, okay? He loves us, oh, how He loves us. And the entire service, I'm thinking about like what happened last night, you know, how I fell down, how I don't have a right to really like sing that out, you know, to come into my Father's presence. So I'd be like, Lord, you love us, you know, okay. So, you know, just not really entering in. Okay, so fast forward a week, I didn't look at porn, praise God, not the big sin, okay? But I did get mad at my brother once, you know, I did disobey, I sped a little bit on my car, you know, but not the big sin, praise God, okay? So the next Sunday I could be like, Lord, I love, you know, He loves me, you know, like entering in a little bit. Fast forward one more week, and I'd be like, I didn't do the big sin, okay, I only sinned a little bit, I lied a little bit, but it's okay, it's not, you know, I was never really lied that much, but anyways, but basically, after 2 weeks, I'm like, look, it's been 2 weeks. Yes, He loves, you know, and I enter in. I finally expect that I could enter into my Father's presence, okay?
Wow.
And this is the thing, is that as if my 2 works of good works could do anything to the finished work of the cross, right? But yet my heart, that's how I had hardwired my heart. If I kind of forgot about it a little, then it was good, you know? It's like, no, it never was good, but on your best day, your best 4 weeks, your best 10 years, or your worst day, it's always the perfect work of the cross.
Yes.
Wow, that's
Right?
beautiful.
Yeah. So you have to realize this. Why? Because, and it's big too for hearing God's voice or anything. Because until you realize this, there's always going to be a voice of accusation in your mind when you're coming into the Father's presence, when you want to do a moment of ministry. The voice of accusation is like, you're not good enough. You know, you're not. They're pointing out a sin in the past, pointing out an insecurity. That voice is actually because you've made inner agreement with the lie of the enemy, right? That it's somehow your good works. And it's like, no, on my best day, on my worst day, you know, if I went outside and cussed somebody out, I could come back in here and still, you know, I mean, it would hurt my heart. So I'd come to the Lord like, Lord, forgive me. But I could still minister, I could still hear His voice, still experience Him, right?
Yeah.
It's because it's Him, right? And again, but we don't sin not because we're afraid we're going to lose salvation. We don't sin because we hurt someone we love, right? And so, like, you know, so in short, just realizing this. So this is like, this has to become really everything. This steel bridge, on our best day, on our worst day, every ministry moment, it's only because of this. Otherwise, really what we're doing, if we place our own self-righteousness at the center of our relationship with the Father, we're actually just making an idol of ourselves, actually.
Wow.
Right? Like it's only us. It's like it's always Him. It's strong. It's strong. That's how you provoke a Slav into their identity. It's a pro tip. Because Slavs, like, they struggle with this big time. But once you say you're making an idol of yourself, there's something righteous in them. They're like I'm not going to make an idol of myself. I'm going to trust the cross. I'm like, finally, okay, good. Praise God. Because Slavs, like, there's such an emphasis on righteousness.
Oh my gosh, so true.
You use the, yeah. It's yeah. If you're a Slav, you know.
Yeah,
You know. Because you're like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. Good, okay, good. Okay, so it's good to know your identity in Christ, and this is something that, as you grow in your identity yourself, and as I've grown in it, you can see when someone's having a problem. Again, everything about, I don't know. A lot of problems with experiencing the Lord, accessing the gifts, all these things are tied up to they really don't understand it in their heart. So it's good to explain it. It's good to host it. It's good to lay hands. Lord, give them a deeper revelation. Secondly, it's good to know that God's a good Father. And again, we live in communities sometimes. We can live in families where we don't see this model. Now, first off, it's very hard to be a father. It's very hard to be a mother. A lot of our fathers, a lot of our mothers, if they could go back and do it again, they would do things differently.
Wow.
Right? You only get one shot at it. You know, sometimes they know they failed in different ways, but they don't have the emotional ability, the strength to come to you, I was wrong, you know, but they know deep down. So the older you get, the more sympathetic you are to fathers, to mothers.
Yeah.
They only get one shot at it. You weren't their only assignment often. You know, they had other things that they were trying to juggle, and they might have gotten it wrong sometimes. You know, and so you want to be sympathetic to them. And realize that they did the best job that they could. Most of them never intentionally meant to hurt you. So because of that, we don't have examples of that. Sometimes in our families, sometimes in an entire community, we don't know really what God as a father is like. And so if we don't know God's a good father, if we can't at least kind of believe that, a lot of times we don't want to hear his voice. Like we're afraid of hearing his voice. So for example, if someone said like, Daniel Marinichenko, that guy is like downright, like he's a judge. Like man, like he's going to see right through you. He's going to call out sin in you. Like you'd be like, I don't know if I want to go to soul school anymore, like. So but if you're like, hey, no, Daniel, he's a really good guy. He's loving. He really hosts the heart of God. Then you'd be like, okay, I'll go. I'll be in his presence. I'll want to hear his voice. So again, what we believe about God, it's really one of the most precious things that we carry, because if we don't believe he's good, it's going to be very hard for us to experience his goodness. Because it's childlike faith often that releases a reality. He'll still divinely encounter us, but we're not going to enjoy the richness of a relationship. If you thought Matt Mccluskey may put you in jail randomly, he may steal your purse randomly, you'll never feel secure in my presence. He's done it before, he'll do it to you, just be careful. So again, so again, okay, so we need to know our identity, we need to know the goodness of the Father. Third thing, okay, we need to have childlike faith. So what I mean is this, a lot of times when we're learning to hear his voice, specifically for praying for other people or like directional assignments, a lot of times he'll speak to us, and then immediately there'll be a second voice that pops up in our thought life, like, this is just you.
Oh, it's always the second voice.
Yeah, this is just you. You're not good enough. Who do you think you are? This is too risky. Different kinds of things. So there's a first voice and there's a second voice. A lot of times we convince ourselves that the second voice is God. It's like our own internal voice of reason. Like, okay, that's that's Liz trying to save Liz from a very interesting situation,
Yeah.
But actually, it's another voice. It's actually source. It's another voice, and that voice comes to steal, to kill, and destroy the word that was sown. Often, and like Roman Trachuk, he's a dear brother of a lot of ours. Yeah. No, Roman. What's name? Okay. Yeah.
Go to the Jesus Place retreat with us.
Yeah. Oh, he's a special dude. But he's a father. Like, I don't know. To know Roman is to love him. And but basically, he said the definition of your life is what voice you listen to. And you're like, well, like it will define your life, really. And you're like, it is like a voice of fear, a voice of insecurity, or a voice of faith.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So how would the devil know when to send that voice, right? To give that voice to the demon to whisper in your ear, like right after.
Somehow, well,
because I don't think they necessarily know when God is speaking to us, right?
I think somehow they have insight. Okay, there's different. Okay, so I think sometimes they do have insight. Secondly, okay, the enemy. When I say like, it's not like as if Satan himself is going after you, Michelle, every day, or even demons. Okay, but what happens is that this is like the soil of our hearts, like this carpet. And if we took a seed and we planted it in the soil and we watered it, it would turn into a tree, and or like even weeds, right? Weeds, and it turns into a weed. And so, it's a stronghold of the enemy. You make agreement with a lie, you empower it, and it becomes like a stronghold in your life. And a stronghold is actually almost like an idol, and idols speak to you.
Wow.
Okay, so like for example, money. Okay, money. You have a poverty mentality. You grew up, you had a lot of kids, there wasn't a lot of money. Money was very short, and and so you develop a sense of lack, and so you want to hold things in. You don't want to give, okay? So it was a moment in time that something was planted, it got watered, and now the pastor's sharing, a really good-hearted guy sharing about giving, and you're just thinking like, he's after my money. He's whatever. He didn't earn this. Why do we got to send it to the kids in Africa? David. Brother. Nice. Good to see you. Yes. So you guys know David Urson?
Oh yeah.
No.
Okay.
Yes.
No.
He's been here. We've been partying with him.
Okay. Oh, so good.
It's a good squad.
Yeah. Such a good family here. So in short, again, this poverty mentality, right? It can take root in your life as an example of a lie that becomes a stronghold, and again, it'll speak to you. And so an idol speaks, to you, like in your thought life. Right, and so again, it's not as if Satan himself is coming to tempt you, Tanya, every time, or a demon, right? And so it's a lie that's in our hearts that's speaking to us. So, but I do think that the enemy at times, he can have insight into what the Lord wants to do, and he immediately tries to steal, kill, and destroy the word that was sown. Again, it happens so often that I know it's real, and I know that it's not necessarily having to do with an insecurity or fear. Like, these things are, pure, and yet there's fear. It could also just be our voice, like the old man kind of speaking. But it happens. So that's where the second voice comes from. But it's almost always the first voice that's the voice of the Lord, and learn to be faithful to that, right? And again, bigger decisions, run it. There's a wisdom that rests upon counsel. So again, bigger decisions is good to run things by other people. By not just other people, like people that you see Jesus in, people that walk in wisdom, people that have made good decisions, right? Don't just ask your 17-year-old girlfriends or guy friends, I asked the whole council, they said, yeah, go for it, yeah, no, let's not do that. Yeah, so those are the basics. And again, I want to encourage you guys are fully empowered to activate people in this reality. And it's really the glory of our lives. We're going to see it more. We're going to see entire communities that hear his voice in natural and healthy ways. It's going to be normal. Yes. Jesus' place is normal. Some of these communities, it's really... It's not?
No.
What? Oh, come on. Stashko certainly... Has he not taught on this?
We're swirly, man.
Okay, you mean it gets fun in there, or what?
Fun, yeah.
Okay, but that's normal. Yeah, I just feel like it's not... yeah. He goes to Alex Stashko. I don't know if you know Alex. Yeah. He was a boot camp brother. He's a fun guy.
Yeah.
But so basically, we're gonna do this, okay? So I want us to encourage you with this too, guys. You guys are leaders. You guys are meant to lead moments in time, right? To seize the moment and to establish another reality, right? Not to be passive, right? So again, we never want to teach on something. We tend to not want to teach on something and just leave it in the realm of theory. We want to manifest this truth. Yes. So if we share on healing, we need to pray for healing. If we share on hearing God's voice, let's take people into an encounter with hearing his voice. If we share forgiveness, let's lead people in prayers of forgiveness. So again, manifesting a reality. So again, that's what you're called to do. And so, in fact, when we look at Jesus, he would always tell a principle, the kingdom of heaven is like this, and then he'd live out that principle so often, right? And so what we're going to do is we're just going to do a few different hearing God's voice things. Again, for some of us, it's new. Some of us, again, Garrett and a lot of, I know you guys who lead all this, Nikolai, probably Tanya and you too. But again, so we're just going to we're going to come before the Lord. And again, whenever you're doing this, you always just pray over people. And again, it's often reminding them of their identity and reminding them of the goodness of the Father. And you kind of create expectation that he's going to do something, and then he speaks, And okay, so we're just going to come before him now.